Info displays in movie mode. When Live View is activated with a 5D Mark II updated to firmware version 2.04 or later, you can choose between 4 display modes: Basic, Limited Info Display, Full Info Display, and Live Histogram Display. Pressing the Info button will cycle through the 4 display modes. The basic display has a semi-transparent mask which encloses the area of the image that will be recorded. The aspect ratio of the mask will change based on the movie recording size selected in the Live View movie function screen. The only other information shown on screen in the basic display mode is the red recording symbol in the upper right corner, a grid display if it has been set by the user, and a focusing frame if the camera is set to a Live View AF mode. In pause mode, the limited info display shows exposure information, battery level, audio settings, and remaining frame count for still photos at the bottom of the LCD screen. The amount of exposure information will vary based on the selected shooting mode and whether the shutter button is pressed halfway or video is being recorded. In manual exposure mode, the shutter speed, aperture, exposure level, and ISO are all displayed at the bottom of the LCD monitor. You can use the camera's exposure meter to read the exposure level by pressing the shutter button halfway. The meter reading is extinguished once you start recording video. In pause mode and during movie recording, aperture priority mode will display aperture and the exposure level scale only. Similarly, shutter priority mode will display shutter speed and the exposure level scale in pause mode and during movie recording. In Program AE, the exposure level scale and the remaining frame count for still photos are displayed in pause mode, but only the exposure level scale remains visible once movie recording begins. In aperture priority or shutter priority, the main dial will control aperture or shutter speed respectively, and the quick control dial will control exposure compensation. In program mode, the main dial is inactive, but the quick control dial still controls exposure compensation. The full info display adds camera setting information on the left side of the LCD screen. This helps you see what settings are active before starting to record a video. The screen setting is displayed on the top left. Movie display is displayed when movie mode is enabled. The picture style is indicated by the next icon down. The autofocus mode is next, and it can be changed by turning the main dial after pressing the AF drive button on top of the camera. The next 2 icons indicate the drive mode and white balance. Both of these settings can be changed by pressing the AF drive button or the white balance button on top of the camera and using the quick control dial or main dial respectively. Drive mode applies to still photos taken while recording movies. The movie recording pixel count and frame rate are displayed as well as the recording time remaining on the CF card. The last icon displays the recording format that will be used if a still photograph is taken during movie recording. After you begin recording, most of the on-screen information disappears, except the screen setting, pixel count, frame rate, and exposure information at the bottom of the screen. The time display changes from time remaining on the CF card to elapsed time for the movie clip. A live histogram can be added to the full info display when the camera is set to manual exposure mode and before you begin recording by pressing the info button. This can help verify exposure settings in manual exposure mode. You can choose whether to display the brightness or RGB histogram in the Playback To menu tab. A 5-level indicator will sometimes be displayed on the right-hand side of the LCD, indicating image data that has not yet been written to the memory card. This occurs when the card has a slow writing speed. With fast UDMA memory cards, this indicator will rarely appear.